My name is Khalid Mohammed. I am the chef and owner of Chaud Cafe, Chaud Café Vite, Show Events, and Fuego. So as far back as I could remember, but as far back as I remember, like 7, 8, whatever, I was always interested in cooking and food. I should say food, not cooking. I was always interested in what mommy was doing. I loved food, like eating food. You know, in those days it was like a good curry chicken or a good stew chicken or, pilau or whatever. But I loved it. I was fascinated by it. I was always fascinated by what mommy was doing in the kitchen kind of thing. Never associated it with being a chef. Never. It didn't even occur to me that what was actually happening. It didn't occur to me that, I have an affinity for something or I'm good at something or whatever. It didn't occur to my parents either. It was just what it was at the time, And then as time went on, I got older. I started cooking a little bit home and I really loved it. But again, even in those days, I never thought of cooking and being a chef or a restaurateur. Never crossed my mind. 15, 16, 17, I even started a catering business, with a friend of mine. We did this catering business when I was like maybe 18, 19 years old. And what I did was I delivered lunches. We created this menu, Monday to Friday, and Monday is stew chicken, Friday barbecue chicken, whatever. Yeah, we started industrial estate in Macoya, and what happened was, Port of Spain people started to use it. All the companies around the Port of Spain area, Woodbrook area, started to order food from me, and then the industrial estate thing stopped, and we just kind of did Port of Spain. And I have many customers now come to my restaurant who I used to deliver to as a teenager, running in and delivering a few boxes of food and kind of thing. And that's how it started. But even then, I didn't consider myself a chef. I was just kind of doing a service and cooking, and it was very local. It was local food, Had no idea yet about, world food in any way or anything about chef. Remember, those days, that would have been, the late 80s, 89, early 90s kind of thing, And in those days, there was no TV Food Network, no restaurants in Trinidad. We had the hotels, so we go like Tiki Village and Hilton, but there were no standalone restaurants that you'd go to. And my family, we went out for dinner. It'll be Tiki Village kind of thing. It'll be Hilton, and we in those days we would travel a lot too. And when we were in other countries, we would eat in restaurants. So I was eating in restaurants from an early age. Like I would say even 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way as a teenager. We would travel as a family, and wherever we went, we would eat in restaurants. So I did have that. But for me, it didn't occur to me to become a chef, even though I was already cooking. So I did that for about 2 years, and then my father and mother said, okay, how about we try to get into cooking school and blah, blah, blah. And try to get into Trinidad, TTHTI. And I didn't get in. I didn't get in at the time. No, I didn't. I don't remember what happened, but I remember I saw the letter a couple of years ago where it said, try again or something. So, and I ended up going to the French Culinary Institute. That's in New York City. And I went there in 1993. And that's where it all started. Literally day one, the second I entered that school with my chef toque and my whites and the houndstooth pants and the whole look, I walked into the professional kitchen for the first time, stainless steel, industrial stoves, convection ovens, it was immediate. I felt it immediately. I felt that this is where I belong automatically, and I will even go so far to say from that day in 1993 to today, I get up same way, I'm raring to go every single day. There's no day where I'm not kind of in the mood, and I'm always ready to go to work and be involved in the restaurant and cooking and food and etc. I have such a passion for food and cooking. No, I love cooking. I love to cook. I get really into it. I'm almost obsessed with what's happening in the pan. You know, I feel connected to the pan, to the pot. You know, when I'm cooking, I'm very connected to food, and I'm very focused when I'm cooking. I'm very focused when I'm writing menus. I'm very focused in a kitchen in general. I turn into a different person actually when I walk into a kitchen. It's automatic what happens when I get into a professional environment. I would say that I'm two different personalities, inside and outside the kitchen. Well, outside the kitchen, I'm very easygoing. Very easygoing. I'm the easiest person to talk to be around, kind of thing. But in the kitchen, I'm very intense. I know I'm very intense in a kitchen. I feel a lot of pressure in a kitchen. There's a lot of pressure of service, of so many things happening at the same time, and it's real time. You know, we don't have a second chance. You know, we don't have a second chance to make a good impression. So those factors, and then you're coordinating all these stations and all this food, and different cooks are doing different things, and it has to happen at the same time. And it feels like a lot of pressure. And you feel that your name goes out in every single plate that you put out. So it does feel like a lot of pressure, and I get very intense in the kitchen. I do have a lot of respect for food as well. Anything. It could be from Bodhi to foie gras. I respect it. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to waste. I don't want to, don't respect it. So no part of a meal for me is, well, whatever. I want to treat the vegetable, the sauce, the protein, the starch with the same level of focus. I mean, I would say that I don't have a fine dining restaurant anymore. So what I have now, it's all casual. All my restaurants are casual. I love what we have. So like, Fuego is like a taqueria. And I think the food is great. In all the restaurants I probably eat in Fuego the most. Cause I just love it. I love the flavors, cause chefs, we tend not to eat our own food. I'd work a whole night and then I'd go and eat doubles in Arbiter Avenue. So, but I do eat Fuego. Chaud Café, Chaud Café is also casual. Then Chaud Vite is very casual. It's almost fast food. It's basically fast food. Chaud Café Vite, that is. And then events are events. So I don't have a fine dining restaurant anymore. I mean, I guess what I was talking about, that intensity, while all the restaurants, all the kitchens, it's still the same focus on the food. Fine dining is just it's a few notches different, because every dish has like 10 different items on it, and it's some, when you do multi-course meals, and you're kind of orchestrating this food to go out, and at that time it's harder. It's much harder. So maybe I think I'm less intense now since I don't have show anymore. I don't know if my staff will agree with me, but I feel like I'm less intense. Yeah. So before I left Trinidad, all I knew was local food, right? I mean, all I cooked, was local food. That's all I cooked. Which is great, because it's one of the hardest foods to cook, right? A good curry, a good stew, a proper pilau, to me, harder than anything that I already cook in terms of getting it right and stuff. So, or as hard. But when I went away to cooking school, And then after that, I spent like 7 years between New York and Florida cooking. All I knew then was European food. You know, that's all I cooked. I only cooked in French restaurants. So every restaurant I cooked was French. And I went to French cooking school, and then I actually taught in the French cooking school for a year as well. I did a 1 year French pastry program as well. So everything I did was French cuisine and French product, French technique, etc. So when I came back home, my first job was at Cruising, and then I had a restaurant called Batty Mamselle. So Batty Mamselle is really where I kind of started doing, I guess, what I'm known for. Because I didn't do it at all at Cruising. Cruising, I just kind of went along with what the existing menu was. It was a very sort of like ribs and burgers and that kind of stuff. And what I realized, what I started working with Batty Mamselle, and it came very natural. I was not in any way I was not actually trying to do this fusion cuisine between French and Caribbean. That was certainly not what I set out to do. At all. But French cooking does teach you to use seasonal, to cook seasonally. Cook what's best at its time. You know? So that's a fundamental of French cooking. And to me, the best chefs in the world are the ones who cook like that. You know, cook what's in season. It's at its best, right? So that's kind of that's the reason why I started to do it. I certainly wasn't trying to do this. I was just trying to cook. So I started, okay, let me try yam instead of potato. And tasted it. To me, it's better than potato, right? And then I was like, let me work with cassava. And then, you know, let me see if tomato choker could be elevated, or bygone choker, or pumpkin choker, or you know, or pepper pots, or whatever. Like, what can I use? Like shada beni, like pimento, which is like the greatest thing. You know, you can't replicate it, right? And that's what happened. You know, I started going to the market. I still go to the market, to see what's in season, to see what's looking great. We're just talking about cooking at home, and what you buy when you cook at home. You buy what you cook at home, what looks best. You know, if you wanted to cook tomato choker, for example, and the tomato is green and not ready, you're not cooking it. You'll take it if it's nice and almost overripe. So it's the same way I was thinking when I started to use local product, and that has not stopped. You know, I continue to use local product. What is great now with local product, my idea 25 years ago of local product was shada beni, saiv, cassava thing. Now local product is everything. We do from zucchini to you name it. It's local. All our greens and our vegetables now are local. So local to me now, it's once it's grown here. You know, once it's grown here, and I always would want to support a local farmer before anything. You know, and it goes beyond just farming. When my children with me in the grocery and I'm picking stuff like, why another one? I was like, no, that's foreign. You know, I'll always pick local first, always, naturally. So that's how it started with using local product. I wasn't setting out to do that, and I think it worked because people responded to it. You know, I had people saying, you go put kingfish on a fine dining menu. I was like, yeah, why? Because it'll get fresh. You know, the salmon frozen. You know, or you know, you're gonna put tomato choker on your menu. People would think that's real. And I was like, what's the difference between that and tomato concassé? You know, it has more flavor. You know, that kind of thing. So, and the yam with roasted garlic, and it goes on and on and on. I felt I kind of started using tamarind and all these other local flavors that I use up to today, and I think customers love it. So there was a time I felt that it was my responsibility. So when I opened a Chaud Creole, I had a restaurant called Chaud Creole, which was a fine dining local restaurant, cooking Trinidadian food and Caribbean food to a lesser extent, but Trinidadian. The focus was Trinidadian food. At that point, I totally felt at that point in my career, I definitely felt that it was. I saw myself as the person to develop Trinidadian food and Caribbean food by extension. So I would say yes, for sure. At that point in time, I saw as my responsibility. Again, in those days, we had French chefs in Trinidad, we had European chefs, we had Italian chefs, English chefs, and in terms of like a local chef with a restaurant like Chaud Creole, I did see it as my role. I absolutely saw it as my role. But it didn't work out. Chaud Creole was never successful. I would say, and I get it, I do get it. Because my idea of stew chicken is my mother's stew chicken. My idea of curry is my mother curry, dal, etc. So everybody in Trinidad was who came to Chaud Creole, everybody came with their idea of what that should taste like, So I totally get why, not everybody, it wasn't for everybody. That's one reason. And two, people do see, and this bothers me, because food being equal is the same price, right? If you consider chicken, curry chicken and chicken cacciatore is the same price. Meaning, so it should sell for the same thing. But I would say people didn't feel comfortable in those days. They thought it was too expensive. But it wasn't just the food, right? It was the ambiance, it was the service, it's everything else that goes into a fine restaurant. So I don't think people really. I won't say I didn't think people told me it's too expensive. And I get that. It's not like I can't understand that. I could understand that. But I will say Chaud Creole was probably the only original thing that I really did. I mean, the other restaurants I could kind of do in my sleep. Is what I was trained to do, is the restaurants I worked in when I was abroad. So, it's not hard for me to cook that. While Batty Mamselle into early show days, as you spoke before about the fusion Caribbean cuisine, yes, that in some ways was experimental, right? In some ways. But I still cooked it from a French perspective. I still planned it around how we'd run a traditional French brigade kitchen, with sauces and this and that. And Chaud Creole was completely different. Chaud Creole, because we all worked together, me and my sous chefs, and we developed a brand new cuisine. Like we developed it, we developed, okay, how are we gonna do stew chicken to order? How are we gonna do curry chicken to order? How are we gonna do, we did a pilau risotto. How are we gonna do this to order? How are we gonna do that to order? I didn't know how to do it. There was no blueprint on cooking that food to order. And I didn't want to have food cooked sitting. I didn't want to be that restaurant, where food is sitting on a steam table and it is dished out. I didn't want that. So we developed ways to cook it. Like we started. So we for an example, I used let's say I used chicken thighs. We would debone the thighs, marinate them in like my version of the green seasoning, and then we'd stew the bones. We'd go through the whole process of stewing bones and making a stewed chicken based sauce, and then we did a stewed beef based sauce, And then we did a curry chicken base sauce. So we have all these base sauces, and then to order, we would brown in, cook it, add the base sauce, da 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 da. 10 minutes later, you have stew chicken. But all these things were just very experimental, and it was amazing. It was in my career, by far, it was the time where I was inspired most. Because every day was like, hey, I have an idea. We could, let's make a coconut-based sauce, and we could end with coconut rather than go, this constant. And then the amount of food we could pull from. Because I called it a Trinidadian restaurant. So it wasn't just curry and stew. It was, I was pulling from, Arabic food, Chinese food. Because by now it's all Trini, right? So it was a lot to pull from. And I tried not to do, pepper pot, which I was known from at Batty Mamselle, or jerk one of my favorite things to eat is jerk. I was trying to really make it local, Trini, like Trinidadian food. So, but by far it was amazing time, but it didn't work. It lasted 2 years. It lasted 2 years, and I closed it up after 2 years, and I just never got the support really. And of course, after I closed it, it was everybody's favorite restaurant. Everybody said, "What, Khalid? That's my favorite restaurant." And it's like, okay. And then also, where it worked was this. I think the business community, when they had expats in, it was perfect for that. But the Trinidad diner would have gone to show. They would have gone to show before they go to Chaud Creole. After Chaud Creole, during Chaud Creole, I was on such a drive to be local and to be the chef, the local chef. I wanted to be the local chef to take our cuisine to the next level. And to the next level meaning fine, and then internationally fine. Which is happening now. In the world with Caribbean cuisine. So that's what I wanted to be. But after Chaud Creole closed down, I didn't want that anymore. So I didn't think every meal, every dish had to have a Caribbean feeling to it. While I continued, and I would never stop using local product, that has not changed. But I use local product very different now. It could, it doesn't have to be a cassava oil down. It could now be cassava moho. So I'm using the product, but I'm not constantly trying to find a way to make it Trini, style. So my role now, we have a real big team now. We're up to 70 staff, and that's gonna grow again soon. And the way we operate now, I have several sous chefs, like 6 or 7 sous chefs, and I have a head chef as well, Rondell Thompson. So my role now really is leading my team through Rondell and the sous chefs, and then by extension the staff under them. So that's my focus now. On my team, our team is expanding constantly. So there's a lot of training that happens. I'm involved in that. I enjoy that. Ron and I work very closely together. He really runs the day-to-day in all the restaurants. He's the chef on the ground all the time. And I go between the 4 things that we have, and that's my focus now. My focus now is Chaud and the company, and doing more, doing more. I have, so many ideas that I've always wanted to do, and I would love to get back into fine dining at some point. Not yet. I have to wait a few more years, but I would love to get back into fine dining at some point in my career. I don't want to believe that part of my career is done, but hopefully in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, every day I get up and I'm raring to go every day. I'm in Chaud Vite by 7 o'clock, and then Fuego, then cafe, and then back again. So I work 7 days a week. I mean, I don't work 8 hours 7 days a week, but I'm somewhere. Once I'm in Trinidad, obviously, like, I have to go. I have to go, and if it could be a 5 minutes, but I'm somewhere. Still very driven. I still get up and I'm raring to get to work. So because of that, and because I'm in love for the restaurants and food, like I always feel like I want to create something new. I have that in me that I always feel like I want to do something. And if you look up what I've done, they're all different. Nothing is the same. Cafe was different to Chaud Creole was different to everything. Fuego was Mexican. You know what I mean? So it's like these are concepts that come into me that I feel like I want to, create. And I have so many. I always have ideas that I want to do. So I think once I can, I will continue to do more. It's hard work. It's nothing else. I mean, to me, when people tell me, you're talented, I almost think they're not seeing the hard work behind it, right? So everybody's talented. Everybody's talented. So many chefs I've worked with, and many of my chefs I've worked with, they're talented. More talented than I am, more creative than I am. But I believe to excel as a chef, it comes from hard work and hard work only. I don't, at least for me, I have to work constantly to make sure that my product is there. And you know what? And the truth is, we have problems too. All restaurants, we have an issue every night with something. And this is with me and Alison and Rondell working, to our best ability. So it comes from hard work. So you asked me if I'm a creative. I think I'm creative, but I think that has very little to do with my career. I think everything came from hard work. Being creative is great. I would say I think I'm a natural cook. I do think I was born to cook. I do feel very connected to the stove and to a pot. And I think I really feel very connected to food when I'm in that zone. So I definitely feel that more than creative. Because to me, once you get skill and you work hard, you get skill. That's it, right? The more you work, the more skill you get, right? The harder you work, the more skill you get. So once you get skill, then you have the ability to do things, right? I think we call it creativity, but I think it's more the ability to do things. Because when I was a young chef fresh out of culinary school, or when I was doing the 2 years of catering at home, I was not creative. There's no creativity then. I was cooking barbecue chicken and macaroni salad and stuff, I was cooking chicken carbonara. I was cooking what I know. When I went to culinary school, I cooked French food for 10 years. But after the 10 years and after cooking, then I was like, what about if? Like, the what about if with the yam, or what about if with the cassava? It's not creativity. I think it's, for me, it came from hard work and then having real skill to now be confident enough to say, you know what, I'm gonna do that, and it'll taste good. When I first started Batty Mademoiselle, and I knew I wanted to do a fine dining restaurant, and before that, I didn't work in a fine dining restaurant. I was cruising, was casual as well. So it had been my first chef position in a fine dining restaurant. I cooked in them as sous chef and line cooks and stuff, right? It was my first chef position. And in those days, you know, I felt like I had this range of cuisine, of what was trending at that time, right? Which was everything was fusion, from Asian to Latin American to everything was just pulling from that kind of stuff. And that menu was all over the place. Like when I look at my Batty Mademoiselle menus, I'm like, my God, what was I thinking? It's all over the place, and it's all over the place. But when you get better and better and better, and you definitely hone in on your cuisine, on what is Khalid's cuisine, you know? So by the end of Batty Mademoiselle, I was clear on, okay, this is the food I want to cook. We don't use anything. Everything is fresh. Nothing is, no, we use, if we had to use butter, we're using butter. We use olive oil, we use all the best product. We use even our salt. Down to our salt is we use kosher salt or sea salt, or, you know, there's no iodized salt anywhere. Whether Chaud Vite to Chaud Café, nothing. There's, from home to all the restaurant, I can't think of a product that we use in a restaurant that I won't use at home. You know, there's no prepackaged seasoning, you know, nothing like that. There's no all-purpose anything, nothing, you know. I believe it makes the world a difference. So I believe, it's like people tell me constantly at Chaud Vite, for Chaud Vite, right? Which is a casual dining restaurant, it's a buffet. So it's a salad buffet and a hot buffet. And it's, you know, it's fast food. At the end of the day, it's fast food, right? But people constantly tell me, God, that food tastes so healthy. So sometimes the customer can't, they don't know, well, the reason why I said so, because our oil is olive oil and our salt is kosher salt, and we're using vinegar and this, and everything is fresh, and we go to Makoya Market every Wednesday and we buy only fresh food, and they may not figure all that out. All they get is this food tastes healthy. It looks healthy, you know? So the end user always knows, you know. So I think sometimes when you think that you can fool up the customer, I don't believe in that at all. So I believe in, and the way I want to feed my family, same way I want to feed my customer. You know, there's no difference. So it comes through. I treat every aspect of the dish as important, as equal. You know, so like why can't you have a steak dish that the vegetable element of it is more important than the steak? You know, I'm not saying it is, and it may never be, but the thinking should be treating every component of any dish with the same level, you know, and that's something I think of all the time, you know, and it has helped me a lot with recipe writing, menu writing, where I'm not always thinking of the protein. I might start thinking of, like, you know, like caramelized cabbage is my new, I love it. I love taking vegetables now far, like too far, almost burnt. And I love that flavor. I'm thinking burnt now as a flavor that I like. So I take like cauliflower far, I take cabbage far. So when I am doing this cabbage dish that I do, I'm thinking about the cabbage more than I'm thinking about if it goes with a rack of lamb or if it goes with a steak. The person would buy it because of the steak. I get that. But me, I'm thinking about what am I gonna pair with the cabbage. I'm just using cabbage or cauliflower or whatever. Or or broccoli or whatever it is. So anything could be the star of the show, which gives you, a bigger spread to work from. It's a lot of hard work that's gone in. It's 6 to 7 days a week. 10 to 15 hour days every day for 30 years.